Hi guys, in this video today we're going to look at a shot where you can change the rhythm of the play. In Spanish it's called the Chiquita, but in English it's when you hit down to the feet of the volleyer, and in this video we're going to describe how and when you should be using that shot. To begin with, we'll look at the technique. Now the technique for this shot is most of the time the same as the forehand and the backhand from the back of the court. Either you might play it after the glass or before the glass. You might shorten your take back slightly so it's not going all the way back, it might just go to here, and the rest of the shot will look the same. You're just going through contact in front of the hip, nice ideally flat contact. You can hit this shot with a little bit of slice, or like you see the professionals rolling over the ball with a little bit of topspin. But if you're learning this shot or you're relatively new to the game, I would try and do this with a flat contact, and the only main difference is the racket head speed. The idea here is obviously you're hitting a soft shot, so when you swing through to that contact, the racket head speed is a little bit slower, getting some good control on that ball. So if we're looking at when you might use this shot, if you're learning the game and you're relatively new to paddle, I would say to use this when you see that your opponents are just moving back a little bit. Now this is something that you see a lot, is that when the lobs go up, they start to smash and they start waiting for that smash. So they're moving back a bit in the court, they're waiting for the ball to go up, and they leave a big gap from the front of the net to where they're standing. So this could be a good time for you just to block that ball in down to the feet and make them either hit a half volley or let it bounce and then hit after that. And then that will keep them honest, that will make them come forward again, giving you space to aim at behind them for the lob again. At the advanced level, I would say that it's a good way to change the speed. So for example, you can hit a fast return, you can hit a solid return, either forcing the volleyer for an angle, or you can play them down the center. Either way, you're moving those volleys around with the aim to hitting this Chiquita down into the space. That will firstly make them move, but also again it will bring them close to the net, giving you space to aim at for the lob afterwards. A shot you see often at the professional level is to hit down to the feet and then to come in and to volley that next one over the top of them, so you've got that space and you can hit nice into that space and then come forward yourselves as a pair. This is a good point to show the effectiveness of the Chiquita. So the servers, they start off attacking. The player, he plays one lob, then down to the feet, and then he does two more lobs, trying to force the opponents back. But really, this next shot is where it changes the point for them. They play down to the feet of the volleyer, gets an easy ball, and then gives space at the back to lob, two lobs, and then the pair this end are able to take that net. Now at this level it's difficult for us to hold the net, but you can see that we stay there, we're lobbing, we're keeping ourselves forward, and eventually we get the chance to win the point. At the higher levels you see this shot a lot from another Chiquita. So for example, someone from the back, they'll hit down to the feet of the volleyer. That volleyer will see them come in afterwards and they'll play another one down to their feet, maybe with an angle or trying to find an opening. That's because it's much less risky than trying to hit past approaching partners or partners that are already at the net. So you might see whole points in the World Padel Tour where they're playing angles to the different sides to try and force an opening before they get that chance to either lob or to hit through a gap. That's why you'll see a lot of the time they'll play the Chiquita on the Chiquita, and here's an example of that. So like a lot of points, the servers start attacking and the returners are trying to force their way forward, and you can see here 3 or 4 shots down to the feet of both players while they're at net, an angle, and then eventually they get to lob, forcing us back. The point then goes from attack to defense from both sides, like a lot of good points do, and eventually one ends up making the mistake. But the point of this is to see how effective the Chiquitas were at the beginning. A few common errors with this shot is firstly, players try and hit aggressive topspin down to the feet like they might do in tennis, and they lose control of the ball, and obviously they're going to make a mistake. The paddle rackets don't have strings, so you can't generate as much speed as you would do on a tennis court, and therefore it's difficult to get that speed and accuracy with the spin at the same time. So that's why it's important to try and hit this soft as opposed to hitting with a lot of spin to bring that ball down. Another thing we see is that players go for this shot when already the opponents are quite close to the net. There's no point in doing that because they then have time to step in even closer and be aggressive. So you want to hit this shot when they're about at that second post or maybe just in front, when you've got a bit of space to aim for, and you can hit softly into that gap and then either come forward on that ball or wait for another opportunity and lob the next one. Another thing to think about is that if you hit a good one, you're forcing your opponents to volley the ball up. So this can be, if you're quick, a good opportunity to approach quickly and then either to hit down on that next volley, really putting them under pressure, or to come in quickly and to play a lob if you've got that space behind them. This is a good example of the Chiquita. So the return is a good deep lob, forcing the volleyer back to try and hit that smash. He then creates that space at the front of the court because he doesn't have time to get all the way back in, and he plays down to the feet, forcing the ball short, and therefore the player can come forward and has an easy passing shot.